Good morning, ladies and Kim. We are starting our call today with our 5 to 8 star diamond rockstar coaches. We have Kim Carver here. He is our executive director of field development, and he will be speaking to us today about belief and anything else that he wants to bring to us. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Kim. Ladies, if you will mute yourself, and we'll get this party started.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Brittany. Guys, it is a real honor for me to be here. Brittany was bragging you guys up a ton earlier this morning when I was talking to her about you. So I actually feel really excited, really honored to be a part of this call and have a chance to chat with all of you. And when she said, when we were talking a little while ago about what she wanted me to share, she talked about belief. I was like, wow, that's pretty general. But I started trying to think about it in the context of where we're at in the year, what's going on. And my goal really, you guys, is to help you in this little while. It's always difficult because since I'm not intimately involved in the ins and outs of your business, I want to make sure that whatever we cover here helps you move forward. That's always my goal when I'm talking to coaches, especially in this type of a format, is I need to do whatever I can to help you just take that next step. In my experience, especially this group right here, you often know what those next steps are, and sometimes you're taking them and you're great, okay, which a lot of you, and sometimes for some reason, and you don't know why, you're like, I'm not doing it and I don't know why, and I don't know, I know what I need to do, but I just can't make myself do it. I can't, I can't go that way. And my goal hopefully is to help you in both camps, either the ones that are taking those steps to maybe fill your tank a little bit and help you keep going, and those of you that are maybe pausing a little bit and trying to figure out why, to give you something that you can that will maybe help you finally get over that hill and to take that step. And so when we talk about belief, I want to kind of approach it from a mindset standpoint, but maybe one that you're not expecting, okay? Belief is a very, like Brittany said, it's a very broad subject, but I want to get really laser focused on belief that drives action, okay? Belief that results in action being taken, all right? And to me, that's a very different, that's a very different subset of belief, if you will, beyond just belief and where I'm doing and where I'm going, all that, but I think you guys all have that. What I want to talk about is the belief that elicits action, that elicits results. And that kind of belief, I believe, is very specific in a couple of key areas. And that's what I want to share with you today. I want to start I want to start this way. In my life, I sound like such a grandpa when I talk like this. I was never old until I came to Beachbody. And then all of a sudden I became like the old guy. But in my life, there are a couple truths that I have come to adhere to that kind of guide me. And one of those truths in my mind is the things that I choose to focus on the most in the long run are what create my reality. Excuse me, let me say that again. The things I choose to focus on most consistently are what create my reality in the long run. All right, let me say that again, make sure I say it right for you. The things I choose to focus on are the things that create my reality in the long run, okay? That speaks specifically to the choices that I'm making of what I allow to come into my mind. My dad told me when I was younger that I was the gatekeeper of my brain. I got to decide what came in and what stayed in my mind. And when I was younger, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was like, you know what? Okay, whatever happens in here, as long as I can put on a nice veneer in front of people and I can do that, then that's all that really matters, because for them, and inside I can have these little things going on in my brain. It doesn't really matter. And I found out that that's a lie. Everything that I've got going on in here, the things that the dominant narratives that I've got in my mind about my life, about what I'm doing, about business, about whatever, that every choice that I make passes through those filters, passes through those narratives. It impacts my actions. And so if I choose to let those things dominate my mind, if I choose to let things that I don't want to happen dominate my mind, in the long run, the compounding effect of all of those little choices is going to create a reality for myself that I don't want. And so I've got to be conscious of that. The book I just finished, I don't know how many of you read this book, though. The Obstacle is the Way. Finished it last week. Second favorite book I've read this year, okay? My first favorite was Britt. but that's a whole nother conversation. But there are some key takeaways from the obstacles way. One of the ones that's relevant to us today was, there was a quote, and I wrote it down so I could read it. He says, when you believe in the obstacle more than in the goal, which will inevitably triumph? That's exactly what I'm talking about right here. When I say when we believe in the obstacle more than the goal, I want to take belief and I want to substitute that word and say, when I choose to focus on the obstacle more than the goal, which will inevitably triumph? The good news is it's a choice. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. You get to choose what. Some of you saw me talk, I'm guessing a lot of you, knowing this group, at Summit in the leadership workshop when I spoke about the idea of a hitter's mindset. And I'll go through it real quick. I won't tell the story of my son because since a lot of you heard that, and I don't want to kind of have to repeat myself, and I don't want to bore you. But basically, the idea of a hitter's mindset came from me when I'm coaching my son's little league team. And what I would do, I would take, when we were at batting practice, I would take my hat off and I would sit it in center field. And I would say, anyone who can hit the ball past my hat as we're doing baseball practice here will get a little candy bar. Don't judge me. It's a really good incentive for little kids. And they were just mini ones, okay? So it's not like it was that unhealthy. But what it did is when they got up to hit in practice, they would swing hard. They would stand up there and their thought process was hit the ball hard. They were looking for pitches that they could hit. And when the pitch would come hit, they were swinging hard to try to hit it far, which might sound kind of silly to you. Well, maybe, of course they're going to do that. But when you see them in the game, oftentimes kids that age, their approach goes very different. Instead of focusing on trying to hit the ball hard, what they're focusing on is, I don't want to strike out. I don't want to miss. I don't want to get hit. They're focusing on the things that they don't want to have happen. In practice, they're focusing on the things that they want to have happen. They're coming at their choices from a place of belief. This is what I want to have happen. I can do it. I'm going to go after it. I'm playing to win. Okay? In the game, they lose that mindset if you're not careful. And they focus on what they don't want to have happen. I don't want to strike out. I don't want to miss. And they're coming at those choices then from a place of fear, not belief. And what ends up happening is instead of playing to win, they're playing to not lose. There is a difference between playing to win and playing to not lose. It feels like the outcomes are the same, but it's very, very different. And when you talk about belief, what are the things I'm choosing to focus on right now? Okay? Am I coming at my choices from a place of belief, focusing on the things that I want to happen, choosing to make my mind, the narratives in my mind, align to the things that I want to have happen, or am I coming at it from a place of fear and I don't have that hitter's mindset? Where I'm coming at my business and my approach is focusing on things that I don't want to have happen, things I don't want to go, and are those the dominant narratives that are coming in my mind, okay? So there's a difference. And if you're not conscious of it, it will sneak up and it will bite you in the butt. I can promise you, when I would see my kids in those games, when they were standing up to bat, to them in that moment, it felt exactly the same as when they were in batting practice. Their swing felt the same. Their stance felt the same. Everything felt the same. And I would have to consciously call timeout, bring them out and say, you're playing the word we would use is you're playing timid. You're playing soft. And they knew when they said that meant that they weren't trying to hit the ball hard. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to not lose, right? And so I would have to kind of shake them out of that a little bit and help them be conscious of their mindset. Now, some of them it didn't work, but some of the kids it did. They would get back in there and they would focus on, and the thing for them I would tell them is, I want you to swing hard. That was the operative word for them. Swing hard, because they swing hard. Their mindset now is to hit the ball hard. Swing hard, swing hard. So the point I'm trying to make here is I had to make them conscious of those things, okay? You have to be conscious of those things. Well, how do I become conscious of these things that are happening to me? Okay, and this is where I'm hoping you can make this jump with me. It's discipline. Okay, you have to be disciplined in your thoughts. I see a lot of coaches sometimes that are very, very disciplined in their fitness and very, very disciplined in their meals. They're very, very disciplined in waking up and going through their to-do list of things they need to do, but they are so undisciplined in their thoughts. Okay? And so I want to talk about that. I'm going to break this down specifically into 2 areas of some things I'm going to ask you to do, okay? The first one is I'm going to keep going on this narrative. The focus on the discipline of thought, this idea of being a gatekeeper of your mind and and this idea of narratives. I want you to start exerting greater discipline as needed over the narratives in your mind, okay? Now, I want to be sure I'm clear on this, what I'm saying. I am not saying we put on rose-colored glasses and pretend that there's everything's okay and there's no problems in the world. I'm not saying that, okay? What I'm saying, though, is it's a choice where you focus. Let me give you an example. My son, earlier this summer, my son is a perfectionist. He's the same one that plays baseball. He's this little perfectionist guy, and he's a people pleaser at the same time. And so he really has a hard time with mistakes and feeling like he lets people down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he came home from school one day, and we were out shooting baskets in our driveway, and he was telling me about an experience he had in school. And he was just so wrapped up in these mistakes and the potential negative impacts and all these things. And he was just in this little cesspool of thought. And I was hearing him, and I just said, and I stopped him, and I asked him, I said, buddy, okay, so why are you focusing on that? Because I see that there's also this, and I pointed out some positive things, some opportunities to get better, some things that maybe if he asserted himself would allow him to get what he wanted. And I said, it seems to me like you're focusing on the wrong things. And he kind of looked at me and was like, Dad, it's not that easy. And I said, okay, good point. I said, let me give you an example. And I stopped for a second. I had this little lightning bolt hit my brain. And I pointed to the driveway. And across the driveway, the shadow from our house had created this really stark line across the driveway. So one side was really bright sun, okay? And the other side, the stark line was shadow, from the shadow being cast from our house. And I told Josh, I said, Josh, I want you to look outside. Today's a beautiful sunny day, okay? Not even really any clouds in the sky, beautiful, warm, sunny day. And I said, the funny thing is about all that sunshine, though, is with all the sunshine, it also creates shadows. I said, look at the shadow in the driveway. On one side, you've got the sunshine. On the other side, you've got the shadow. And Josh, in a lot of ways, that's kind of how life can be sometimes. There's sunshine and there's shadow all the time in everything that we do. Now, the thing about the sunshine is being positive. It's being proactive. It's coming at things from a place of belief. It's coming at things looking for opportunities. The shadow is the negativity, the pessimism, the fear, the lack of belief. And I said, Josh, it doesn't mean that the shadow doesn't exist, okay? But you can choose to focus on the sun. Focus on that sunshine and not the shadow, not because you want to play ignorant or say, oh, that's not important. No, it's important. But do it because I have never seen pessimism, negativity, fear, or any of that stuff that lives in the shadow solve any problem or create anything productive or anything positive. Where time after time after time after time, I have seen the things that live in the sunshine, the belief, the positivity, the proactivity, all the things that come in that solves problems, that creates opportunities for myself. So I will acknowledge the shadows there, but I will choose to focus my time and my attention, my narratives in the sun, in the sunshine. That's what I'm talking about. It's not putting on rose-colored glasses. It's asserting choice into your thought processes to help you reach the things that you say you want to reach. Okay. So my action for you, my assignment for you, my whatever you want to call it for you guys. Hold on, I gotta move this little thing. Okay, is I want you to just be conscious. Just take some time today and consciously look at the narratives that you're telling yourself. And I know that can be kind of an abstract thought, but it could be something as simple as, this time of the year, people really don't want to buy fitness things. That's a narrative that maybe a lot of people are telling themselves right now. That's shadow. Sunshine might be, the people that are talking to me right now are the people that are going to be super committed. I'm going to go find more of those people because those people are easy for me to work with. Okay? Sunshine. Look at some of the narratives that you are allowing that are thinking through your mind. How do you react when obstacles come up? How are you reacting to, your progress on a lead or whatever? I want you to just consciously list out some of the narratives that you're telling yourself and be honest with yourself. Okay. What is my reaction, the narratives I'm telling myself in these areas? And then I want you to pick 2 of them. I want you to, well, excuse me, I want you to do this, back up. As you look at those, I want you to look and see which ones are aligned to the direction that I want to go. Which ones are belief-oriented, proactive, positive? Which ones are that? And those ones, awesome. And which ones aren't? And I want you to choose a couple of the narratives that are not, and I want you to say, this is how I'm going to change those narratives. I am going to do this. And this is what the goal of this is, real simple. I want to make sure when we talk about belief that you know that you can choose, okay, how these narratives function for you. And coming at them from a place of belief, okay? That's the purposes. And if you do this, you will be surprised at you will become more conscious of these narratives that you're always constantly telling yourself. And remember, the things you choose to focus on are what create your reality in the long run. So make sure you're focusing on the sunshine. So that's the first thing, discipline of thought. With that idea of my narratives, where I'm either going to remove those narratives that are unaligned or negative, or I'm just going to realign them so that they're positive, focus more into the sunshine, not the shadow, okay? All right, then the second thing, I'm sorry, Britt, I'm rambling here and I'm going to make this call way too long.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay, the second thing is discipline of action. Now, I'm not going to come, especially with this group, I'm not going to come at this topic with a, hey, here are the fundamental activities you need to be doing in your business. I know Britt, I'm sure she has drilled this into your brain. I'm sure you guys talk about this all the time. So I'm not going to repeat that, but I want you to know that I know that that's important. Those things are important, and I'm not diminishing those. You've got to do those things. But what I want to talk about when it comes to discipline of action is how, meaning your belief system around those things. That's probably the better way to say that, okay? Your actions should be driven by purpose, okay? The things that you do every single day should be driven by purpose. One of my biggest fears for people at this stage of the business where you guys are at right now is you become so good at knowing the things that you need to do, so consistent, and you get so many things thrown at you that it's easy to fall into a mindset of just wake up, do these things, do these things, do these things, do these things, right? And sometimes when that happens, when those actions just become actions in this type of a business, when they're robbed of their purpose, okay, behind them, and it's going to sound silly, but stick with me, they become empty. And when they become empty, they become ineffective, all right? So often people will tell me, well, I'm doing these same things, but I'm not getting the same results. And the first thing that I do is I say, well, why do you do those things? And most times when I ask them why they do those things, my answers I get are, well, I know they need to do them, and the 4 vital behaviors, and they're important for my business. And I'm like, it's shallow. It's this veneer of an explanation of why it's there, but behind you in your heart, it doesn't really matter anymore. And there is a better way. Let me say it that way. How do we change that? All of your actions should be enveloped or endowed or empowered with purpose. And this is the best way I've ever found to do that. Typically, a lot of times when people are at this stage of the business that you're at right now, all the things that are coming at them, and with their business has been successful to a certain point or whatever, and now they've accomplished their initial goals, and now they're not sure what's next, or they're tired, or their leaders are driving them crazy, or whatever happens to be. But at some point, they're just so emotionally spent that they've neglected the very core reason why they coach. They've neglected to feed and nurture that very center of who they are, of why they're an entrepreneur in the first place. Okay? We call it your why, right? I don't want it to be trite, so I'm not going to use that, but that's what I'm talking about. It's the purpose. Guys, we will only do things on a consistent basis that matter to us. And when you are doing this type of a business, there are what I call balanced sacrifices that need to be made. Balance because you have to keep your life in balance. All right, you have to balance those pieces out. But there are going to be times when you have a little bit of imbalance where you have to focus on certain things. You have to give up certain things. We call those things sacrifices. And for a long time in my life, I used to think that sacrifice was a negative thing. Until someone told me one time that sacrifice is just giving up something good for something better. Sacrifice is only a negative thing when there's no purpose behind it. And so if you're resenting some of the things that are going on, if you're feeling like your actions are empty, if all those, it all is connected to this idea with that I have kind of disconnected myself from my purpose. I need to then go back, and this is what I would do. So I just did this yesterday with a coach, is had this situation. I just said, okay, so tell me why do you coach? Okay, and let me start this way. I said, why did you start coaching? That's where I started, because they could think way back then I could do this. And I said, great. We talked through that just a little bit. And she talked about, we eventually got to the point where she was talking about her family. She was talking about how it made her feel. And I was asking her questions about all this stuff. And then I asked her a real simple question. I said, if not for Team Beachbody, if not for your business right now, actually, I didn't say it that way. I said, I did say it that way. I said, if not for Team Beachbody, you would have never what? And that made her think a little bit. Not for Team Beachbody, I would have never impacted these people, been able to travel the world, been able to see this, she started listing these things. If not for Team Beachbody, I would have never. And then I asked her a real simple question. I said, are those things still worth fighting for to you? And she got quiet for a second and she said, yeah. And I said, why? Why are those things worth fighting for? Why are those things still worth it to you as an entrepreneur with this platform that you've created for yourself? Why are they still worth fighting for? And then we had a discussion about that. And then I said, okay, so now these actions that you've listed to me that you do every single day, I want you to tell me why doing those things helps you do that, helps you get that. And what I was doing was I was taking these actions and I was connecting them to her purpose, so that when she was adding people to her network, extending invitations, working with her team, doing the one-on-ones, I want it bright and shining and burning hot in her mind why I am doing those things. Because when that happens, those actions now are no longer empty. And when those actions aren't empty in a way that I can't describe with words, it impacts how you deliver them. People sense it, they feel it, and they respond better to it. You guys just trust me on this one. I promise you. You look at, maybe it's you or maybe it's one of your coaches that's just kind of going through the motions, and you would say they have empty actions. There's just not a lot of conviction behind that. Connect them again back to purpose, and then have them engage back in that same conversation. And in some way that I don't know how to describe, people will react better to it because they will feel there is purpose in what they're doing. They will feel that belief, and it matters, especially in a relationship-oriented business like we have here with coaches, okay? So when we talk about discipline of action in terms of belief, it is first endowing my actions with my purpose, consciously connecting why I do these things to the outcomes and the purposes and the why I'm trying to do this, so I don't lose that. And then on a regular basis, I am always giving myself checkups in that area, because I know with time and all the stuff that happens in life, I will drift those things apart. And if I'm good, I will stay dedicated to doing those things because I know I need to do them. But gosh dang it, I sometimes just forget why I'm supposed to. I forget why those things are helping me get to where I want to go. I'm just doing them because I've always done them. And then I become ineffective. And then because the business becomes harder. And then people don't respond as quickly. And I go, well, why? I'm doing the same things. Well, you are, but you're not. You are, but you're not, okay? So the second thing then, keep actions controlled, connected to purpose. The second thing is one that I always, and if you've ever worked with me, you're like, oh, I was wondering if he was going to bring this up. This idea of controlling the controllable, okay? Now, when I say that, typically I'm talking in terms of making sure that the actions and the things, when we talk about discipline of action, is focused principally on controlling the things that I can control to move my business forward. But for this call, I'm not going to talk about it in those terms. I'm going to talk about controlling the controllable and the idea of comparison primarily. Well, let me do it this way. I'm going to talk about it in terms of focusing actions to outcomes, okay, which we talked about right there. But actually, you know what? I'm just going to talk about comparison, because for this group, that's what's going to be the most important, okay? One of the things that we sometimes forget that we can control when it comes to belief is rooted in how we see ourselves in comparison to stuff, okay? And I say stuff for a reason. When belief can be eroded very, very quickly by the poison of comparison. It is corrosive and it is dangerous. Comparison, though, goes beyond just comparing myself to other people. The easy conversation that I'll have real quick with you, because it's important, is we do have to have discipline to not compare ourselves to other people. I know it's hard. I don't mind if you compare them from a motivation standpoint, like, hey, you know what, they're showing what's possible, I can do this, as long as it comes back to a real common thread of I'm trying to get better. Like, I celebrate their successes and what they do. I'm just trying to get better, and what they do, boy, that inspires me. That makes me feel so good. I see a gap between where I'm at and where they're at, and I can't wait to fill it. That's okay. The comparison, though, that you guys know that gets corrosive is I'm not enough. That pushes our focus from belief into fear, into the shadow, from the sunshine. That kind of comparison to other people is dangerous. We all know the reasons. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison. Comparing their highlight reel to my reality is a surefire way to get myself depressed, all of that stuff. So that's one form. But where I want to spend my time right now with you guys mostly is on a form of comparison that most coaches, in my experience, are blind to. The comparison game that I play with myself, comparing myself to my previous self, to expectations of myself, that comparison game that is very internal. Typically at this time of the year, I see a lot of that. You've been pushing for big goals. We're towards the end of the year. And part of you are going, I don't know if I'm going to make them. And that's okay, right? There's two choices you have in that moment then. And some of you are on track and you're going to keep going, and that's awesome, okay? But the comparison, regardless, is the same. Sometimes the gap, the expectation gap between where I want it to be and where I am, that comparison, okay, can be very destructive to a coach. Because how they fill that gap is they fill it with negative self-talk, they fill it with doubt, they fill it with fear, they fill it with pessimistic thinking about the future. They allow it to erode trust, and that's how they fill that gap. Okay. I'm going to ask you to stop comparing yourself to your previous version of yourself. Man, I used to be so much better at this. Did you? Maybe you think you did, but I would argue that the experience has probably made you better now. Comparing myself to the expectations I had of myself, boy, that's tricky, Kim, because I want to drive myself. I'm not saying don't be driven. I'm not saying expect the best from yourself. But I'm saying when you are ascertaining your value, when you're ascertaining the contribution you are making, when you're ascertaining what you're doing, one of the worst things that you can do is allow that gap of comparison, of expectation to a previous version of you or what you thought you should be right now to force you into a defensive, negative place where you're reactive. Instead, embrace the learnings, embrace what's happened, what's going on, look for the learnings in the lessons that took place during that time at the gap or whatever's happening, and then live now and say, great. So what am I going to do now between now and the end of the year, for example? What are the things that I want to do now? Okay, I'm not going to let this comparison allow me to wallow or to shrink or to pretend that I'm not capable enough. I'm not going to indulge in some of those self-destructive behaviors. I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to recognize what happened, and I'm going to control the controllable and live right now. Where I'm at right now, what am I going to do by the end of the year? And the goal is to just get better. The goal is to just get better, okay? So, you guys, you're in the right place, doing the right things. We've got some amazing things that are coming and being available to you this fall and the beginning of next year, and all these things that are coming with you. But man, I got to tell you, I love what we do. I love who we are. I love what we're about. It matters. It makes a difference. And I'm grateful to be able to associate with people like you. I hope this information today was helpful to you guys. And if you'll go back and really just trust me on this, align or remove those unaligned narratives. Focus on disciplining your actions in comparison. These things like this, if you will just let this be more than just a call, if you'll actually apply it, I promise you that you'll see some difference. I've seen it over and over again throughout the year. So thank you guys so much. Britt, I really appreciate the invite, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Kim. Woo! Okay, you can sign off, Kim, if you want, and we will just close this call out.
I got to jump to another meeting. So I'll see you
Yeah,
guys
no,
later.
that's great. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Did you take 3 pages of notes like I did? Question. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. I think we just need to end it there. That was incredible. Please take this back to your teams, to your coaches. I will share the recording in our thread, and if you want to share that with your team, you're more than welcome to. I love that. I love the vision of it. And you have a happy Thanksgiving. I will see you ladies in 2 weeks, but don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything in the meantime. Okay, thank you.